Hi, Kayla. I just wanted to read you something I've been working on. Um, I don't have a name for it or anything. It's just like a short story I started writing. But here it is. The blue and pink neon electric lights flashed against Lewis's face. Passage aboard the Continental Way as it sped closer and closer to the Pacific Tunnel. The nose of the A-line arced downward with the angle of track beneath it, and shot into the abyss like a bullet. All the while, the environment inside the bullet car remained relatively unchanged. It rocked ever so slightly, as though easing an infant off to dreamless sleep. Lewis sipped from a small brown bottle marked OX2, and he closed his eyes until the next alert sounded. Pacific Tunnel in 2 minutes, a woman's pre-recorded voice announced over the intercom. Lewis opened his eyes a moment. The alert voice also disturbed the slumber of a nearby passenger in a red ripped shirt. He was a young man about 26 with a green backpack at his side and a bruise outlining his left eye. There was a moment Lewis looked up, and he and the other passenger's eyes met. Lewis put his eyes down so as not to attract unwanted conversation, but the passenger almost immediately jarred from his seat and walked over to Lewis, each step very deliberate and simultaneously casual. As he seated himself almost awkwardly close, Lewis took another sip of mild sedative, closed his eyes, and pretended not to notice him. A moment passed where nothing at all happened, and as Lewis pretended to sleep, the crash became a reality rather quick. A vision of a bathroom came into his mind. In the dream, he was in a bathtub gazing across the surface of the water at the face of his childhood love, now fully grown. Her almost black hair hung in one ratty lock over the middle of her face to the center of her upper lip. "Cora, what are you doing here?" Lewis asked. I'm not here, silly," she replied, and then he remembered. Cora died 6 years ago. "Why do I see you?" he asked in reply. "Because there's something important I need to tell you," she replied. Her hair dripped with a high-pitched liquid thud on the surface of the water. "Well?" Lewis asked. "Do you know how to whistle?" Cora replied, forming her lips and making that familiar high-pitched tone. She whistled a tune Lewis didn't know, and he waited for an explanation. "No, I can't whistle," he replied impatiently. "What is that song?" The whistling continued without reply, and as he looked at her eyes across the water, the room began to shake and deteriorate. The fluorescent lights flickered. Her lips stopped doing anything, but as the room shook and fell apart, the sound continued. Cora's hand arose from the rippling water, and she clawed at his knee. Leaning in close, she said, "Pay attention." He awoke suddenly to the sound of that same tune resonating from the lips of the kid next to him, loud and obnoxious. Lewis looked over at him with an expression of intense irritation. Noticing Lewis glaring at him, the boy in the red shirt nodded and smiled with a sort of twinkle in his knowing eyes. By now, Lewis had all but forgotten his dream entirely. He reached into his pocket to check the time. "My name's Warren. What's that shit you keep guzzling?" That's all I have so far.